This is Ian Cameron for Pub Sports Radio. It's time for another NHL play-in series preview video. Again from the Western Conference today. It's the Minnesota Wild and the Vancouver Canucks. Right now, Vancouver minus 130 series price favorite. Minnesota Wild plus 110. And for this series, the first thing that stands out to me is we've got a lot of playoff experience on the Minnesota Wild side. Take a walk on the Minnesota Wild side. Yeah. Just like how I did that. The Minnesota Wild, they've got on a lot of experience, playoff experience. Zach Parise, Matt Zuccarello, Alex Galchenyuk, lots of playoff experience. Ryan Suter, Mikko Koivu, lots of guys that have been in the playoffs. Not so much for the Vancouver Canucks. And Minnesota being an older team, a lot of their older best players are older, guys in their 30s. They will benefit from the break, the hiatus, where they're going to get their legs are going to be re-energized, they're going to feel refreshed, and they're going to feel like they're ready to get back in the saddle and play at a high level. So this is not a shoe-in for the Vancouver Canucks. The Minnesota Wild as well did play some better hockey with Dean Evason taking over as the head coach. They took the interim tag off him after Bruce Boudreau got fired. So now we're in a situation where Dean Evason is now going to be the permanent head coach of this team moving forward. So now maybe it gets the players even more fired up, knowing, hey, this is our guy. Let's go out there and try to play well, play hard, and win this series. The Minnesota Wild have a lot more offense to them than they used to have. I mean, you look at their lineup now. Greenway, Stahl, Fiala getting him from the Predators. He's actually played quite well for the Wild since they got him. Parise, Joel Eriksson, Luke Kennan on the second line. Marcus Foligno, Alex Galchenyuk, Matt Zuccarello on the third line. Zuccarello could be an X factor in this series. I say that because when he's healthy, and that's a big question mark, can he stay healthy? He's had so many problems with injuries with Dallas and also now with Minnesota. He's had problems staying on the ice, staying healthy. But when he's healthy, he can be an offensive dynamo. And an offensive difference maker for the Minnesota Wild. Let's see if they get that version of Matt Zuccarello here. And even the fourth line with Ryan Donato, Mikko Koivu, and Ryan Hartman, capable enough to chip in an offensive, chip in a goal here or there. The blue line, Ryan Suter and Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin and Matt Dumba. I like that group. There's a drop-off to their bottom pair, whether it's Barkowski or Brad Hunt or Carson Soucy. There's a little bit of a drop-off to that bottom pair. I think the thing that's concerning to me about Minnesota, even though there's things to like, the experience edge over Vancouver, Alex Stalock, not a great backup option, and Devin Dubnyk, the number one goalie for the Minnesota Wild. This was not a great year for him. He did not really play all that well or consistently this season. And then you flip it over to Vancouver. They had their goalie playing well. In fact, Jacob Markstrom, you could say this is the best season he's ever had in the NHL. He's been that good. And all of a sudden, they've got options behind him with Thatcher Demko, and they acquired Louis Domingue as a backup option as well. To me, Vancouver still got a little bit more depth, a higher upside, higher ceiling, a team to look at where the best years are ahead of the Vancouver Canucks, whereas the window is closing, and Minnesota is almost on the verge of rebuilding their organization quite a bit. Vancouver, I like the additions of Tanner Pearson, Tyler Toffoli, JT Miller, guys that have been in the playoffs. Those guys are actually going to help. They have actually increased their playoff experience with guys like that. It's just for Besser and for Bo Horvat and for Elias Pettersson, for guys like that, it's going to be their first playoff journey. Let's see how they handle it. All three of them are great forwards, though. They're definitely capable of playing well and leading this Vancouver team well. On the blue line, Quinn Hughes, great defenseman already. He's taken such a huge step forward this year. Alex Edler, the veteran, they'll rely on him because he has been in some playoff situations many years ago for Vancouver. I think he was on the team still when they played the Bruins, in that Stanley Cup final many years ago. Tyler Myers, he's got playoff experience from his last few seasons with the Winnipeg Jets. That's going to help the blue line out. Chris Tanev still can play if he can stay healthy. That's not a bad blue line, actually, the Canucks, and I think they've got the edge in goal. So while there are things to like about Minnesota and their experience factor, I just didn't get that kind of consistent quality play from them start to finish all season. Yes, they do have a little bit of a playoff experience edge, over Vancouver. But I think Vancouver's the faster team. They've got a more explosive team. They've got a little bit better blue line top to bottom than the Minnesota Wild. And they've definitely, in my opinion at least, have a goaltending edge because Jacob Markstrom's been better than Devin Dubnyk most of the season. So I'm going to go with Vancouver to win this series. It's not my favorite series price bet, but I would definitely look to Vancouver minus 130. Maybe for a little more value, you take Vancouver and 4. I think that's a good way to go. Vancouver and 4. I don't think Minnesota's getting swept. They've got experience. I don't think they're going to get completely swept. They might even push this to 5 because of their experience. So, if you're looking at it in terms of if you don't want to lay the series price with the Canucks, even though I think it's still reasonable, you could go instead with Vancouver to win 3-1 in 4 games plus 300, or Vancouver to win 3-2 in 5 games plus 330, plus 340 in that range. And all you have to do is cash one. If one of those two comes in, Vancouver in either 4 games or 5 games, you turn a profit. So that would be something I would look at from a game-to-game perspective. Maybe look for a little bit higher scoring games in this series than expected. I know the game 1 total for Sunday night game 1 is 5.5. That's pretty low. And I know some of these exhibition games have trended under the total so far, but you can't necessarily say just because the exhibition games that have been played so far have been lower scoring, it means the games that count starting on the weekend are going to also be lower scoring. I think this matchup dictates where Minnesota's offense has a little more depth to it now. Vancouver can score. Questions about the Minnesota goaltending. I think we can get some games. Again, 5.5. That's a low total for these days in the NHL. I think you might be able to get some overs, especially if we're going to see games lined from a totals perspective at 5.5 between the Wild and Canucks. All right, that's my NHL series preview, Minnesota, Vancouver for Pub Sports Radio. Thank you for watching. Make sure to visit pubsportsradio.com every day for great daily content. I'm Ian Cameron. I'll be back with you tomorrow for another NHL series preview video. Thanks for watching, and make sure to always check out pubsportsradio.com.